Welcome to another edition of Hey Bobby. I'm Ray Horner, along with Senior VP of the Cleveland Guardians, Bob DiBiasio, kind enough to join us each and every week here on WAKR, WAKR.net, our YouTube channel, and our Facebook page. Bobby, I wanted to talk about a couple of items. It was this week, going back, I forget what year it was, that Baerga had 3 home runs in a game against the Tigers. I saw a video clip the other day of his very first hit, which is an infield single against the White Sox, who, by the way, the first base coach on that hit was Mike Hargrove. But he had an impact. You and I often talk about him being the ambassador and the teaching and the things. He really had an impact on this organization as a player in the mid 90s. For a while, he was the best there was in baseball, I think, in second base for everything he brought to the table. I know you have a very big place in your heart for Carlos Baerga, and I thought you could talk a little bit about him today.
Well, one of my all-time favorites. He's near the top of the list from the moment in 1990, spring training, when we first connected. There was just this incredible bond. He jokes around that I'm his daddy. You know, I'm his one of his baseball fathers. Because again, connected at the hip right from the start. I've mentioned this to you before that Sandy Alomar, Charlie Nagy, Carlos Baerga, when we were in the midst of building um, our brand new baseball only ballpark in downtown Cleveland. Those 3 gentlemen never said no to me when we needed them to help promote the fact that we were moving from Cleveland, cavernous Cleveland Stadium, to this beautiful baseball only ballpark. And um, all the things that Carlos would do for us from the PR side. I just love the guy dearly, and he had a true sense of what being a professional athlete's all about. Um, Not just being in uniform playing, but um, the impact you can make in the community, the impact you can make to help foster a wonderful relationship with your fan base. And had a 14-year career, spent six with 6 different teams, 8 years with us, and the man could hit.
Switch hitter with power, could hit, played second base. I happened to be lucky enough to be at the game when he hit the home runs from each side of the plate in the same inning against the Yankees. I was sitting up in the upper deck that night, and kind of a drizzly night, but I remember him hitting those home runs. But Bobby, like we were saying, the guy can really hit. I know he was in the second spot in our order for a long time. He got moved down, but a switch hitter with power. And you talk about that trade, right? Sandy Alomar Jr. and Carlos Baerga in the same trade.
And Chris James for Joe Carter. Chris James actually played right field for us and did real well um, as well as one of the best trades in franchise history, with Hank Peters walking in and his first deal, trading a Joe Carter. Not easy, but having to fortify more positions on the roster with younger, controllable players that helped us obviously reach the World Series. So, um, pretty darn good. 3-time All-Star, 2-time Silver Slugger Award winner. Um, he was a 20 homer, 100 RBI, 200 hit guy, back-to-back seasons. He was Honus Wagner. He was in those conversations of second baseman who could do that, score 90 to 100 runs and things that. He again, one of my all-time favorites. Put a bat in his hands. Remarkable. Does the play? Does the color analyst duties for all 81 home games on our Spanish radio. He's been working on ESPN Deportes, his
Mm.
Instagram, and his X. People go to it because he's tied in with a whole lot of the Hispanic players who share things with him and the agents for those players. So there's times when he's breaking news with players. So he's really done a wonderful, wonderful job in his second career.
How tough was that? Because you told me a real tough one is when CC Sabathia became a free agent, left the organization. I know how high you held Carlos Baerga. How tough was that personally for you when they traded?
Yeah, that was a hard one when Danny O'Dowd, tell you a goofy little story on that. The Bell Baerga charity golf outing was happening at Chagrin Valley Country Club. And I am standing next to Carlos as we're waiting on the tee box at a par three. And it was at the place where Carlos didn't golf. So they set up a photo op for every foursome to get their picture taken with Carlos. Albert obviously loved golf, so he was playing in with the title sponsor group. And I get a phone call, and it's Dan O'Dowd. And he said, "Are you anywhere near Carlos at the moment?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, he's actually standing right next to me." And I said it in a sense of where Carlos couldn't hear it. And he goes, "Well, you ought to walk away. Um, I've got something to tell you." And next thing you know, he said, "We traded Carlos to the New York Mets." And I was crushed. Just, I mean, I'm looking at him about 10 feet away from him, and it's like, oh my God. He goes, "So sorry to do it, but you need to get your butt back here to the ballpark and, get the release going. We'll announce it later this afternoon." So here's one of the ironic things. Make up some excuse that I have to leave after we played the par three. So we separated from Carlos a little bit. So I take um, the golf cart and zip back to the parking lot, get my clubs, throw it in, get in the car, turn on WKNR radio at the time, sports talk radio, driving home, driving to the ballpark, and all of a sudden I hear on the radio some kid bag it, the golf bag kid at the golf course calls into KNR and says, "Hey, Bobby DiBiasio just left here," and like less than 10 minutes later, Carlos left in a hurry. And Carlos thought maybe, he was asked to come to the ballpark and he thinks he might have got traded. So something's going on. So I'm driving, listening to this on the radio that this golf bag kid broke the story. It's like, oh my God, you know, things things are always um, going sideways sometimes.
Senior VP with the Cleveland Guardians, my good friend Bob DiBiasio with us. The other subject I wanted to talk about, it's the summer season. We're all at the ballpark. And it began in, I believe, 1973 with John Adams coming to the games and pounding the drum. We lost him a few years back, and I know the Guardians hold in high esteem what he brought to the franchise and his dedication to the franchise. Bobby, I'm sure you knew John very well. The organization knew him very well. And I thought maybe you could touch on that story of him coming to the ballpark and really his love for the organization.
Well, I think first and foremost, when you talk John Adams, you have to really understand that in the global picture, he represented all fans. He represented all Cleveland baseball fans. And that's the way he wanted it. He wanted to be known as a fan first, and all the accolades and such were just part of the uniqueness of his being a remarkable fan. Nearly 50 years. I did become very close friends. Curtis and I really close friends with he and his wife, and then unfortunately they separated and late in his life prior to his passing. Um, John would do a whole lot of appearances, and he was a funny guy, an incredibly witty, funny guy that enjoyed. I have to admit that he enjoyed the fanfare. Um, and was always there to help the organization whenever we needed him at a 5 a.m on opening day. Come because the morning TV morning shows were going to be there, and it would be awesome to have you there. Um, he bought a drum for 25 bucks at a garage sale, and one of Zach Meisel at the Athletics' greatest line was, um, he got his drum for 25 bucks at a garage sale, and it now resides in Cooperstown. And so that's a pretty cool story. August of 73, spent many a summer night after graduating from Lakewood High School in June of 73. My buddies and I, we would spend a lot of time in the bleachers for 50 cents. And so you got to know John a little bit, certainly not by name or whatever. So I'd always kid him that, I was there for with him at the very beginning just because of the timing of when he started. He's in the Guardians Distinguished Hall of Fame. We did a uniform patch for him. Um, One real cool thing I have to tell you on John Adams, whenever I think of John, Mariano Rivera, the incredible Yankee closer, unanimous selection, I think, for the Baseball Hall of Fame. Um, when he did his swan song, when he did his farewell to baseball, he had the PR guy of the New York Yankees call colleagues at every club and their last visit. And he called, the PR guy calls me, Jason Zillow, and he says, "Hey, Mario's doing something interesting. He wants to take, and in your guy's case, it's a little bit different, but he wants to take 25 front office people that he wants to sit with and just talk to before his final game at the ballpark. And he doesn't want any baseball operations people to be a part of it. He wants people in the accounting department, maintenance department. He just wants baseball fans in front offices that aren't connected to baseball, and you guys pick. So I picked the 20 to 25 in our organization that got to be a part of this, and I moderated a Q&A with Mariano, and then he autographed a baseball for everybody. And then he wanted to beat the drum. He wanted to meet John Adams, and he wanted to beat the drum. So we had Mariano and John Adams meet. And that's pretty cool. But his drum now resides in Cooperstown. So if you go to the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum, you go up to the Cleveland Indians where they have all the teams, and they have lockers of all the teams, like Rajah Davis's bat, or yeah, his bat from, hitting that homer in the 2016 Game 7 of the World Series, and a bunch of other cool artifacts in our locker. Um, and the drum resides in that locker as well right now until we, after all these renovations, figure out where we're going to bring it back to Cleveland where it belongs.
We were lucky enough to have John and the drum live in my studio years back as well. He came down here one day and pounded the drum live in my studio, which was a big thrill for me as well. Senior VP with the Cleveland Guardians, Bob DiBiasio with us. We call it Hey Bobby. As always, Bobby, thanks for making time with us in Akron each and every week, my friend.
Thank you, Ray. Always fun. Go Guardians.